Huawei Mate X3 Review. This is Huawei's new Mate X3 affordable flagship that aims to attract users with some impressive looking hardware. It does look nice. It's probably the best foldable phone to come out yet, but is that enough to make up for the differences in software that you'd get from a Huawei device? I'm all for GSM Arena, and let's find out in our Mate X3 review. Design and build quality. Affordable phones are becoming more elegant with each generation, and Huawei's new Mate X3 is a great example. We've seen some clunky foldables over the years, but the Mate X3 is compact and light, weighing in at just 239 grams. That's 24 grams less than the popular Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4. When closed, it's probably the slimmest foldable we've seen. It feels like a normal phone in hand, and when unfolded, the Mage is razor thin at an impressive 5.3 millimeters. It unfolds completely flat too. That's thanks to the advanced hinge mechanism, which unfolds and folds so with no discernible gap between two symmetrical halves. The hinge will also keep the phone open at different angles, which could be useful in certain scenarios, and while there is still a crease on the foldable panel, it's very well contained and hard to notice. Our unit is in frosted black. It looks classy and feels quite smooth. The Mate X3 can come with either an eco leather backing or a glass back like we have here, and the frame is aluminum. Together, the lightweight and premium design make the Mate X3 a joy to handle, especially for affordable. And on top of that, the Mate X3 is the first non-Samsung foldable to provide ingress protection at IPX8. That means it's water resistant but still vulnerable to dust. Displays quality test. The displays of the Mate X3 are a bit smaller than the previous generations, but still bigger than what Samsung offers on the Galaxy Z Fold 4. The outer cover screen is a 6.4-inch AMOLED with a 1080p resolution, a 120Hz refresh rate, and Kunlun glass protection. And then when you open the phone, you get a larger 7.85-inch foldable AMOLED display, again with a 120Hz refresh rate. Both of the screens are bright on the front. We measured up to around 480 nits with the manual slider, and this can boost to 1160 nits in auto mode. The inside display's brightness is a little less but is plenty for good usability outdoors. We measured 470 nits manually and around 930 nits with the auto boost. It's worth noting that both displays are matched well when it comes to brightness and color settings. Pretty much whatever you change on one you get on the other two. That said, the color accuracy overall is just okay regardless of the color mode you choose. In settings, whites come out a bit bluish. Content still looks good though, with deep AMOLED blacks. With the larger inner screen you get more space to work with, and this display is sharper than what you get on many competitors at 426 ppi. There's support for 10-bit color too, but no HDR video support. Both displays have a smooth 120Hz refresh rate, an upgrade from the 90Hz of last year's model. The adaptive behavior is different on each display though, with the cover screen, whether you're in the dynamic or the high refresh rate mode, you get 120Hz, which dials down to 60 when you stop interacting with the phone. Meanwhile, on the inner screen, the dynamic mode will go down from 120Hz to 90 while idling. In high mode, we didn't see it go down below 120Hz in the UI, but in certain apps or games it does drop to 90. You can side-mounted fingerprint scanner. Wake up and unlock the Mate X3 with a fingerprint reader built into the power button. It's quite responsive, but a bit harder to reach while the phone is closed. Speaker quality test. The Mate X3 has a pair of stereo speakers, one on the top and one on the bottom. They're plenty loud and sound great with a tight frequency response. Storage options. X3 can come with 256 or 512 gigs of storage on board, or even a whole terabyte, and that's expandable using a Huawei NM memory card. EMUI 13.1, Europe. No Google Play services. The international version of the Mate X3 runs EMUI 13.1, which is based on Android, but not really the same thing. There are no Google services or apps including access to the Google Play Store. Instead, it relies on Huawei's own apps and services, which include Pedal Search and Pedal Maps and the App Gallery app store. The app selection and app gallery is constantly growing, but there are still some notable omissions compared to Google Play. Still, the app gallery does have Pedal Search integrated, and it can show you results for apps outside of the store, and then you can download them through developer websites or app repositories. And now there are options like Gbox, a virtual machine, which acts as a workaround for the lack of Google apps. With it you can install and run most of them. Their shortcuts appear on the home screen like usual, and they work quite Well, however, you're still missing the underlying Google services that you'd find on regular Android phones. Android Auto Nearby Share or any apps that rely on Google location services still won't work on Huawei phones. Besides that, the interface is feature-packed and works well. You get a separate notification center and control center similar to an Apple or Xiaomi device. The leftmost home screen page is very customizable and can show you a news feed, weather app suggestions, and many other things. Swiping down anywhere on the home screen takes you to the system-wide search page. EMUI 13 supports large folders which organize apps into a more compact space. But the apps remain accessible with a single touch. There's support for combined widgets. You can combine 3 widgets into one, or you can stack widgets on top of each other, swapping between them. When it comes to multitasking, most of the default apps support a pop-up view. Multi-window aka split screen is also available, but first you have to get into the multi-window dock by swiping and holding from the edge of the screen. The split can be horizontal or vertical, so overall you can have multiple pop-up apps and 2 split-screen ones open at the same time. Another feature worth mentioning is that the Mate X3 has an IR blaster, so you can use it as a remote to control appliances with video output.
And the phone also supports a video output through its USB-C port via DisplayPort 1.2. That's in case you need an even bigger screen to work with, and you can even get a desktop-like UI like Samsung's DeX. The chipset of the Mate X3 is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. That's last year's flagship hardware. It is a custom 4G version though, because Huawei is banned from using 5G modems. It's too bad that you don't get the latest and greatest Qualcomm has to offer, but still there's plenty of power under the hood here. In benchmarks, the Mate X3 delivers high performance on par with last year's top Android phones when it comes to battery life and charging speed test. Thermal management though, the Mate X3 leaves more to be desired from just about the start of our prolonged stress test. The phone with throttle as performance down quite often, and not in a gradual way either. Despite its rather compact size, the Mate X3 packs a rather large 800 mAh battery. The larger inner display uses plenty of power, and when using it for screen-on tests the phone earned an overall endurance rating of just 81 hours. The cover display is more efficient though, while using it the endurance rating is considerably better at 103 hours. The Mate X3 supports 66W charging. And while it isn't the fastest charging device out there, it holds its own, charging from 0 to 70% in half an hour. The phone also supports up to 50W wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. Now we've made it to the camera specs. Cameras on the back. The Mate X3 has a 50-megapixel main cam, a 12-megapixel 5 times periscope telephoto, and a 13-megapixel ultra-wide cam. The camera's UI will split when the phone is half folded, and since the phone stays open this way you can set it on a flat surface for extra stability when shooting daylight image quality. Rear cameras. Photos from the Mate X3's main cam come out at 12.5 megapixels by default due to pixel bending. In good lighting they look very good with plenty of detail and pleasant natural looking colors. The sharpening is a bit aggressive but not over the top. The dynamic range here could be a bit better though. Capturing photos with the Mate X3 unfolded typically means that you're capturing vertical 3x4 stills instead of regular 4x3 ones, just because of how the layout of the camera app works. Portrait mode shots are taken with the main camera and they look good, plus you get plenty of bokeh variants and effects to play around with. Unlike on some competitors, while you're shooting you can't enable the cover display to act as a secondary viewfinder for your subject to see themselves with 5 times your photos from the telephoto cam are impressive. They're quite sharp with excellent detail. Great Looking colors and wide dynamic range. There is a 10 times toggle in the viewfinder which adds some digital zoom to the telephoto's output. The shots are a bit softer but you still get plenty of detail and the colors and dynamic range are just as good. The Mate X3's ultra-wide camera is pretty wide. Its photos look great for this sort of camera with plenty of detail and colors which match the main cams pretty well, and since this camera has autofocus you can use it to take nice looking close-ups using the super macro mode. Low light image quality. Rear cameras. The main camera holds its own pretty well in low light conditions. Even in auto mode there is plenty of detail and colors look nice and natural light sources are handled well, and there's practically no noise. If you enable the dedicated night mode, shots take around 3 seconds to capture. For the main cam it's largely beneficial, boosting shadows and restoring some of the detail there. The telephoto camera captures sharp and detailed photos at night. Shadows do end up dark, but besides that we have very few complaints. Enabling the night mode on this camera doesn't improve things a ton. It boosts shadows a bit, but the white balance may end up yellowish. The ultra-wide camera does rather well in low light. It captures plenty of detail with nice colors and a surprisingly wide dynamic range. Noise is low too. The light sources may end up blown out though. With night mode enabled there's a chance you'll end up with a yellowish and overexposed result. Like you'd expect from a foldable, there are plenty of options for taking selfies. You get an 8-megapixel front-facing cam in both the cover screen and the inner screen, and you can also take selfies with the rear cameras using the cover display as a viewfinder. Selfie camera image quality. The 8-megapixel selfie cam seem to be either identical or very close in overall quality. The detail is good and so are colors with nice and natural skin tones and texture. Dynamic range could be better, of course. Using the main cam for selfies produces the best possible results. The quality is just on a different level. Video quality. Rear cameras. The Mate X3's main cam can record video in up to 4K resolution at 30 fps. The quality is superb with excellent detail, great dynamic range and nice vibrant colors. The telephoto camera captures great 4K video as well. The ultra-wide camera's 4K videos also look great with excellent detail, vibrant colors and a wide dynamic range. Conclusion. So that's the Huawei Mate X3. This foldable has probably the most elegant design we've seen yet. Compared to the Z Fold 4 is flatter and thinner, and it also brings the IP-rated water protection. And while the battery life might be less on the Mate than the Z Fold, the charging is faster here. You still don't get access to 5G networks. The lack of official Google support doesn't sting quite so much anymore thanks to workarounds like Gbox. So overall, if you're willing to make those compromises, the Huawei Mate X3 is a affordable flagship that's worth recommending. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're after selfie camera video quality alternatives to the Mate X3, one option could be the Galaxy Z44, or you could consider the Honor Magic VES. Let us know what you think and I'll see you on